Welcome to the Shift Podcast, where we have conversations with people that have made a shift in their life that's put them on the path they're on today. I'm Erin.
And I'm Dan, and we hope that these conversations will inspire you to take a shift in your life.
Shift Pod. I am rolling solo today, thank God. My co-host is gallivanting around Bali in his Shift Pod budgie smugglers, I'm sure. So I have a lot of free will today and for the next week's episode as well. But I'm very, very excited. I reached out to this lovely human on social media, and today's guest is Mark Curry, founder of Savvy Beverage, a functional beverage brand focused on brain health, focus, and sustainable energy. Originally trained in commercial law, which I cannot wait to unpack, Mark stepped away from the corporate world after becoming fascinated by the link between performance, stress, and well-being. His journey into nutrition and nootropics led to the creation of Savvy, a brand helping redefine what healthy energy looks like in today's high-performance world. Mark, welcome.
Thanks so much, Erin.
Thank you so much.
It's great to be here.
I know. How good is it? I'm so blessed that you don't have to meet my co-host because he's just quite a pain.
Sorry, Dan.
Yeah. Sorry, Dan. Today's episode is going to be the most streamed, downloaded, liked, shared. We have to beat his solo episode, so make sure that we put that out to the team.
Easy. Cool. So where do you want to start?
Oh, well, I want to start everywhere. Savvy Beverage, thank you so much for bringing some goodies in today, which we'll get into a little bit later and talk about how they taste and their functionality. But commercial lawyer and into a drinks business. What tell me about your journey getting into commercial law.
I guess it comes back to high school. So initially I went to a school in Sydney called Waverley College.
Mm-hmm.
I was there from year 5 until year 10. In year 10, they brought out a bit of a policy where if you got letters at the end of a term for being a little bit cheeky, you would have to find yourself a new school effectively. And I nailed it, got 3 letters in 3 terms. So I found out by the end of term 3, which was I think around September, that I was going to be expelled. So I was like, that's cool. At least I have a few months to try and work out what I want to do next. I always kind of thought school, if you're doing academically what you need to be doing, you can afford to have some fun. And I did a lot of sport. I definitely enjoyed myself. And I thought as long as my grades were okay, I could muck around a little bit in class and be a bit cheeky. However, in hindsight, obviously not the best approach for the teachers. It distracts other students. And when you're 15, you're not thinking about this, but if one of your friends is having a hard time understanding a certain concept and you've understood it, but so then you start mucking around, you actually rob them an opportunity to actually understand that.
Yeah.
So thinking back now, I'm like, that was actually really selfish and a bit mean. But at the time, I was like a 15-year-old kid having fun.
So mature of you.
And being silly.
The reflection part.
Oh, no. Because at the time, you're just like, the hell? Like, it's not that big a deal. But then, yeah, I can see why why they did it is because I was stopping other kids from properly learning. And then because the schooling system encourages you to try your hardest, get good grades. And if you get good grades, you can do whatever you want to do at university. And it's less of a emphasis on what would you like to do and more on what you should do because of your brain. Wow. And I always thought that was a bit of a shame because if you're lucky enough to get a mark in your HSC, your ATAR or UAI, it was called for me back in the day, and you can get something that starts with a 9, then you should only do subjects at university that start with a 9. And the idea of not doing university,
which would be like what, doctor,
medicine, engineering, law, whatever it might. I'm sure there's like a ton of other courses as well. And so that's how I got into doing that. And then when you're there, you get told to either get the best grades or be like an all-rounded student. I tried to do the all-rounded student approach of doing some sport, doing inter-university competitions, writing for the published law journal, and then trying to get reasonably good grades. And then from that, you can then work at whatever firm. I ended up working at Australia's largest commercial law firm. And I think that was just because I enjoyed business, I enjoyed law, and so I thought that kind of culmination would be ideal. I did also try a bit of criminal law, not for me, family law, not for me, property law, not for me. So you have to do little like trials at the other areas, and I just found them either really dry or actually one of the two. It was either far too dry and really, really boring, or far too emotionally heavy.
Especially criminal law, family law, and when it involves children, like that for me, I'm just way too empathetic for that sort of stuff.
And it's hard as well, because I remember
Yeah.
one of my first cases was this woman who had 8 foster children and was suing the government because she hadn't received enough benefits. Anyway, we
Yeah.
won't get into it. But anyway, it was just very, that and a few other different cases, and you're kind of like, ugh, yeah, not for me. While commercial litigation and commercial law opens your eyes up to how ridiculously corrupt the Australian system is, especially in finance, which is not an area I want to get into today.
I can't. I mean, I love that stuff, winds me up so much, and it's an element of you start to scratch the wound and you end up with this giant gaping hole because it is so ridiculous. And yeah, I think it's a subject I just can't even touch because we won't be able to talk about your amazing experience, but it's so
and the
ridiculous.
fact that like items in the budget just kind of broke last night and this morning, raging. But obviously there's so many things happening behind closed doors and like aspects of it, and you're kind of like going,
Yeah, but it's like I'm sorry for the analogy, but it's like giving a drug addict more drugs to like, it doesn't help the situation. You don't give people more money to teach them how to spend better. They
Correct.
currently can't spend properly. So why are we the answer? And the more we earn, the more we're punished. It's just, anyway, I can't, it enrages me.
It's a pretty toxic system because it's almost like they have decided doing the wrong thing will have a cost, and they factored that cost in. And I'm like, that's super, super corrupt. But anyway, I moved on from it eventually.
Yes.
But, it was an area that I thought was probably the most interesting for law for me. And that was, how I got into it.
Amazing. And tell me about when you were a lawyer and going to work, and obviously the expectations of successful, what was some of the culture that you witnessed in that profession?
So fairly toxic. I think it's kind of changing now, which is good, or at least I hope it is. I have no idea. But the expectation was you would work very long hours, even though you get paid for a fraction of the actual hours that you do work. It was a bit of a policy where the building that I was at in Sydney, it was down in Bligh Street, and beautiful big glass building. And so apparently it was like a 7-star environmental building, which didn't make any sense to me. I thought it was a 5-star system, but I was like, cool. That sounds great.
I'm going to be a Ritz-Carlton lawyer.
Yeah, and like it is very fancy pants, and you go flying up in this lift, and everything's all glass, and it looks really, and it feels really cool each day. It's every single day, like going boop, and then going to like your level was always like a woo situation. But once you're there, and yes, you get cool views across Sydney Harbour, and that is quite lovely. However, you are chained to a desk for quite a few hours each and every day, and you're encouraged to get in there kind of early, and you won't leave usually until past dinner time and beyond. So you get a free dinner if you stay until 7 o'clock. There's all these perks for staying late. If you stay until a little bit later after that, you get a free cab ride home. A little bit later after that, you can get some free cab ride back the next day. And then all of a sudden it seems pretty cruisy, because also at dinner there was all of these extra like sandwiches and other stuff that was there. So everyone would just grab it and then write their name on it and chuck it in the fridge, and now you have snacks and lunch covered the next day. So you never need to spend money on food, but you also now never leave the firm.
Yeah, like you live there.
Yeah, you never leave your level. Why would you? You now have all of the food you need, and they bring you food on a daily basis. People, your secretary, whoever, will bring you coffee and other things that you need. There's also like coffee and everything and amenities on your floor in the kitchen area. There's no reason to leave. So to spend 12 plus hours there each and every day, and then because everyone's basically trying to get as high as they can up the corporate ladder, if your boss, superiors, partner, whoever is there, and you're trying to leave the best possible pressure on them. So if you know that most days they're getting in at, say, 8:30, you want to be there at 8:15. You want to always be the face that they see
First,
as they come in. And sometimes it's even worthwhile making a bit of a note to go ahead and like notice when they do come in, and as they come to the hall, oh, that's your bathroom break or your tea break. And you, oh, hello, just as you walk past. So they're always noticing, gosh, he's always here before me. He's always here before me. And then you might also occasionally, when they're leaving and you see their because it's a glass building, you can see when people turn the light off. And so you would try and stay there later.
Be the last light to go off.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then when their light goes off, you might yell down oh, see you later.
I'm still here after you.
Yeah. And I used to do like cheeky stuff as well. I would do intra-chat communication always as I was leaving, just going, oh, hey guys, just a quick question I had, or just a quick thought I had. And it was purely just to brag. I'm here at 11 p.m. I'm here at 1 a.m. I'm here at 3 a.m. And the next morning I do it the second I got back into the office at like 8:22.
So I was only home for like 4.5
Correct.
hours.
Hey guys, I've actually answered my own question. Like, it's ridiculous. But all you're trying to do is just let everyone know I'm working long hours, because at the end of the day, as long as you work well in a team and you're relatively smart and you're capable, and it's usually the criteria to even be in the firm in the first place, and then it's all about billable units.
Yeah.
And if you're billing the client lots of money, you're making the firm lots of money, which makes your partner lots of money, you tend to get...
You're the favorite.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then you're more likely to be promoted.
Yeah.
And they will cut the fat and promote the good ones.
Yeah.
And so you need to remain as one of the good ones.
Yes.
And so if the average worker is doing 12 hours, I need to start cutting 13.
Yeah.
Or 12 and a half or 14.
And so when you're witnessing this, what were some of the moments for you that you were like, I feel like I can change this? Or at what point did you go from acting like that to going, hang on a second, this is not healthy for me or for anyone?
When I was the previous firm where I tried a few other like parts of the property law and family law and other little parts, I immediately realized the practicality of this job is nothing like the theory. The theory in university was very interesting. Writing essays and writing like large pieces that were then going into published articles in law journals, I found interesting. That was all research. Even doing law competitions, and I was lucky enough to win a few, which was cool. So that was all interesting. But then when you're actually working on the real practicality side, and it's a very small little example of what you might be doing, it's like, this sucks. This is so boring. It's so dry and it's not interesting. And even when it got to the more meaty stuff, it's not at all what you expect it to be. And so that was a bit of a bummer. And the hours just seem to kind of drag by, and you almost need to just get yourself focusing on what you're going to do next. But it was almost pretty soon after working that I was like, this probably isn't for me. The theory was interesting, great. But the actual practicality in working here, I don't know. And do I want to keep playing the grass is always greener game and going, oh gosh, maybe there's a different area of law I could jump into.
So witnessing the culture that you were just like, this isn't healthy for me. This is not really, the theory-based side of things, which I love, and the actual job. What did you start to think that you could change, and the light bulb moment for Savvy?
So back to how it was a big glass kind of office place, it allowed for the fact that you had to look like you're busy if you want to succeed there. And you want to put in the hours and trying to make it look like you're busy. Even if your billable hours, which is actually doing the hardcore work for the client, are high, you still want to go ahead and have the look of being first there, last out kind of thing. And so I would do that. However, if I finish most of the appropriate work I can do that day by say 8 p.m., but I want to stay there until 9:30 or 10 for the image of doing that, got to fill in some time. I had a nice office with 4 monitors. So as long as 3 of them look like there's work on it, the last one, obviously I can't watch a movie because it's late at night. There's reflections off the windows.
Yes.
So imagine my partner walks past and they just can see I'm just watching Braveheart. Like, it wouldn't be a vibe. But
but even staying there till 8 o'clock, that's late.
Yeah. Like by this stage, you've been there for almost 12 hours.
Oh God.
But that was just the standard. Like there was always hundreds of people at dinner every night. So that was just what everyone did. Again, toxic-ish culture.
Yeah.
Maybe it's changing. I hope it is. But that's where my kind of love for nutrition and nootropics and switching careers kind of kicked in.
Right.
Is because I would then spend those evenings, I had to do stuff that looked like it was work. And I would start researching random things. I would do all sorts of stuff because I realized I was unhappy and I needed to change. And so it was, what else would I do with my life if it wasn't this? I started doing like career aptitude tests, personality tests. I even was trying to do anything I could that got me out of, because I realized I can't leave the office early some days. On a Wednesday, I started doing opera lessons for an hour every Wednesday.
And how can you give us belt out a little opera tune?
A bit of Conte Partito? No. Probably won't. Yeah, maybe back in the day it would have been okay, but nowadays not so much.
Yeah. Okay.
Although I was on a wedding 2 years ago in Italy, and And that song was there. I think it was like kind of a pre-game thing. And I couldn't resist but like kind of belting it. It's always kind of funny seeing your friends' faces the first time they realize that you can.
So you were doing opera in the office at night?
No.
No.
I would leave the office and go to Kent Street where my music teacher was.
Oh, right.
I just wanted to do something random that was quick, that was in the city that I could do. And it was just anything to get out.
Right.
And the reason I chose opera is because I was researching into lifestyle hacks and I found out a great way to stimulate the vagus nerve, which is something that has a ton of different benefits. One of the best ways is through singing.
Wow.
That's often why if you find yourself kind of singing in the car or kind of bopping around or singing at home, you kind of feel yourself in a better mood.
Okay.
And I thought this is really cool. And so that was my whole thing, was to try and get myself in a way better mood through breathing techniques and through opera to then make that day at least a bit more. It was like that kind of shining bit of pleasure on the Wednesday.
Right.
And so I could get through the rest of the afternoon.
Get my hit.
Yeah.
Legally.
And it was so cool. Like, it was also awesome because like the windows were open. It was on level 3 and this place in Kent Street. And like, I just found it funny because I just didn't give a crap. And you're just belting out whatever it might
How
be.
good.
And there's all these people on the street like,
Where is that coming
it's
from?
terrible opera. Where is it coming from? A Shirley would be devastated. That was quite fun. So I was researching all these little things that you can do throughout the day to make your day better. And I learned about nootropics, lifestyle hacks, what's effectively called biohacking.
Yes.
So I started like learning more about, great, I should definitely be doing exercise snacks. I should be doing more ice baths where possible and cold showers.
Yeah.
I should be doing all of these different breathwork techniques. I need to try this. And I found it really interesting. And then nootropics was a huge part for me. I'm like, this is really, really interesting. And
Can you tell the listeners what nootropics is or are, or I'm also wanting to learn more about that. So what's nootropics?
So nootropics is a class of substance, whether natural or not natural, that has a direct impact on the way the brain works for whatever function it might be. So an easy example for some people to think of might be a medication that helps with Alzheimer's or dementia, something that's going to help with the neurodegenerative issue. So something that's going to help delay the onset of a memory-based problem. And then I guess you could kind of then go, hang on, what if we started giving these particular drugs to people who actually have good memory? Would that help their memory get better? So that's the kind of like theory behind, but then they started looking into more and more different products, and it might just be something to help you deal with stress in a much better way.
Yes.
Something to reduce anxiety, something to boost mood, but isn't like an SSRI classic depressive medication, but works in a slightly different way. Things that can improve memory, verbal fluency, things that can help out with just kind of those tip of the tongue moments where all of a sudden everything just feels a little bit more kind of flow state-ish.
Yeah, natural and organic, and just you're on the path, you're not getting distracted. It's
correct. The easiest way to think about it is we're fairly on board as a kind of society with products that help out with physical aspects. So whether it's a pre-workout or something that might have, say, beta-alanine, which is a buffer for lactic acid. So as you're kind of lifting weights or doing things, your body will produce lactic acid in response. And once it kind of gets there, that's what causes a lot of like muscular fatigue. So if you can buffer that, which is a fancy chemistry-based way of saying slow that amount of acid buildup, so you might be able to get 1 or 2 more reps out.
Yes.
So that's the thing that'll make you fatigue if you're doing, like, say, chin-ups. So if you have a whole bunch of pre-workout beforehand, depending obviously what's in it, you might find yourself being able to do 17 chin-ups instead of 15.
Yes.
That's kind of the rough idea. And then, of course, there's other things that we could have that might affect our hair, skin, nails, our beauty. So we're all pretty on board with the concept of eating a particular way or having a particular substance for the purpose of changing our body composition, whether it's building muscle faster, you could consider creatine and protein and other things in here, or whether it's losing fat faster, we could start to look at carnitine and a variety of other different supplements that might actually accelerate fat loss. And obviously an easy example as well, but it works through a different aspect at the moment, is our GLP-1 style things.
I was going to ask you what's your opinion on the peptide frenzy at the moment?
Depends what and depends where it's sourced from, but I'm pro. but depending which ones though, of course. So I like ones that, like one of my favorites is BPC 157 and TB 500. These are both ones that are kind of used for more healing, so like recovering from injuries. So so as long as there's a good background of safety to it, that's how I kind of view it. I also like CMAX and Solank. These are more kind of nootropic peptides. CMAX has a variety of benefits from cognitive function, which is great. So basically kind of like just giving your brain a bit of a boost. And then there's Solank, which is things that actually, which is another peptide, which helps with addressing anxiety and stress. So if you ask someone who, if you were conducting a meeting or having an important phone call or a first date or making a speech, you normally would get pretty stressed about that.
Not me. I could talk underwater in a paper bloody plastic bag.
But it's so cool. Like, so this particular one, Solank, there's a variety of ways you can have it, but effectively it comes in a little dropper bottle and it's well absorbed through the nose. So I would literally put a little drop and then literally try and like, I know that seems like a strange thing to do. And
guys, we are not doing anything dodgy on the podcast.
That immediately. I had to make a large best man speech in America at a wedding 2 years ago. And I remember being told I was going to be after a particular, I think it was after dinner. And then I got tapped on the shoulder going, hey, Mark, you're actually going to be on in 5 minutes. We're just rearranging some of the speeches. And I was like, that's cool. But for some reason, it was kind of like, whoa. And I thought, that's cool. I have some Solank in my breast pocket, not a problem. And I just walked out, went to where the toilets are, and just did like 2 minutes of just like some like slow breathing in, just nasal breathing, put like a little droplet of the Solank, and then went back in and just suddenly just felt like a little bit more calm down and like way more relaxed. But the cool thing is it doesn't sedate you, and that's what makes them quite attractive from a calming perspective. That's kind of the effect that I tried to mirror in the Calm Savvy product, by the way.
Yes, we have some products here which I'm going to crack into. So, so started doing opera, getting the vagus nerve activated.
I started even playing American football. Where possible. It was literally, I was unhappy in law and I put myself big time into whatever I was trying to do. And while trying to work out what else I could do, then you speak to your friends and your parents and everyone says, well, you just spent 6 years at university and what's now I've realized $100,000. Because at the time you're like, it's fine. Like, it's just hex, baby. But then you forget to realize that then is a loan from the government and it's jumping at 3 or 4% or whatever it might be year on year on year on year. So that was definitely something I recognized later on. But it was something that I kind of found challenging because people are saying to me, try law for longer, try a different job, try something else. You spent 6 years doing it, you spent so much time, effort, energy, and money getting this degree. Don't give it away after only 1 or 2 or 3 years. Take longer. And I've always thought that's it's a sunken cost fallacy bullshit. It's a classic gambler fallacy. I'm at the table, I spent some money, I'm not leaving until I get a bit of coin. I've spent years and years doing this and money doing this and time and effort and energy doing this. And I don't want to waste any more
fucking time.
Correct. See, my mentality was that. I've gone as far as I can. I've tried a bunch of different stuff. This is shit. This is not for me. I want to do something else. But you're speaking to people going, no, spend more time doing it because maybe you don't get it yet. And I was like,
I'm pretty sure I get it.
Yeah. And so that was my kind of thing this is not for me.
And this is one thing, one of the biggest reasons we created this podcast is because we want to encourage people to take the shift. If you are unhappy, if you are doing something with your life that you are not getting anything from it, mentally, physically, emotionally, change, pivot, go and do something else, see what's out there. Like a commercial lawyer doing opera, for God's sake. Like, it's amazing because you're just willing to go, this is not for me and I am not going to waste my life. Like, we had an amazing guest, Brett Vertel. He was at Coca-Cola for 30 plus years. And he was like, don't be institutionalized like I was. Don't sit there and chase that carrot that they're like, here you go. And you're gunning for it. You know, people are in law are working all these hours hoping for the promotion. And then someone comes in, they become the favorite. Oh, we're giving it to them. They've been here for a fucking hot red 5 minutes. So like all of this stuff for what?
It's also some of the larger ones. There's a huge corporate trap, and I don't know if they'll appreciate me saying this. And also, ironically, I sell a lot of my drinks to large law firms, and weirdly, they can all afford it and give them out primarily for free.
Yeah.
Or subsidized in the cafe. So I can't talk too ill of it. But there's a little bit of a trap whereby if you stay long enough, you get, as I was saying before, you get some free dinner. You then can turn it into free lunch the next day. And the dinner's not bad. Like, it was a 5-course degustation. Like, it was delicious. Wow. It was way better than what I had waiting at home for me. And then the free cab ride there and cab ride back, that's a lot nicer than public transport.
Yes.
Like, stuff taking a bus or a train in a suit, which is what you have to kind of wear it, not comfortable. So the idea of an air-conditioned car all the time, I'll pump an extra few hours for that, which is ridiculous because like that's just a bad use of like time for money economics because how much does that cab ride really cost me?
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, that was the way I was thinking at the time. And then further than that, every single Friday was a huge, big party. So I forget what time it kicked off. I forget it was 7:30 until 9:30 or something like that. But we're talking trays of food everywhere, full catering, open bar, everything. There was performers, there was musicians, there was entertainment. It was literally a party of hundreds of people
every week.
Level 15, panoramic views across Sydney City.
Wow.
Forget how shitty your week was.
Let's do it all again from Monday.
Exactly, because it was an absolute vibe.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden you get to hang out with all your friends and your colleagues and everyone's there and you got a glass of wine in your hand and there's delicious food going. You feel like you're at a wedding or something.
Yes.
And Fridays is casual Friday, so I'd wear something like this. Instead of like a full suit, I'm wearing chinos and usually like an Oxford style button-up shirt. Yeah. So not too casual, but casual enough. And that was pretty much it. So it was fun, drinks, food, niceness. There was a band, there was entertainment. Yeah. So for 2 and a bit hours, you're like, this is actually pretty cool. Yeah. And then you almost kind of think, I don't mind this place. Yeah. And you kind of walk out like with a bit of a buzz on, then you head out with your friends and stuff, and you have a bit of a fun Friday, and you're like, sick. And you forget, oh, actually, I know I hate this place. Yeah.
So then you started creating some potential concoctions.
Correct.
Let's dive into the savvy stuff.
So I guess the advantage working in something that you don't like and you're trying to work out what you do next is it forces you to start doing different things. I started doing random stuff and just picking up bits of life in any way, shape, or form that I could. I started playing music. I started doing any micro hacks that took a little amount of time that would add some type of different value for my brain in any way, shape, or form is what I got interested in doing. And I started learning about nootropics, nutrition, changing my diet, the idea of biohacking, what you can do. And there's so many different little things out there as well, which is cool. And that was probably a good thing because when you're in an unhappy place of stress, you kind of have two options. And my option was, I want to change. I just don't know what to do yet. This job is all consuming. So I started taking half days and sick days. And so I would go in at like early and then immediately start complaining how sick I feel. To everyone, very vocally, and then
that doesn't surprise me at all.
and then after whinging in all the team meetings, eventually people are like, just go home, dude. You're like, no, I can't. I'm such a team player, couldn't possibly. And then at like 10, 30, 11, you're like, I really aren't getting better, guys. I probably should just go home. And then great, and then awesome. And the second you kind of like hop in a Uber and you're back home, fantastic. And then I had an A3 Arts diary, and it was phone off, everything off, and just hours of just being able to concentrate. And it was working out some simple stuff. What do I like doing by myself and why? What don't I like and why? What would I do and why? What am I interested in and why? And it was always this kind of concept of a why-based ladder. And so, cool, I like health. Why? Oh, because of this. Why? The idea is you're trying to get like a bit raw and deep with yourself. But what was quite interesting the first few times I did it, I would need to set a timer for myself where I was not allowed to get up from the chair for an hour. And even if I had to go to the toilet, cool, I can hold my bladder for whatever needs to get done. And the idea was once you start to get a bit more kind of raw with understanding yourself, you almost feel a bit uncomfortable. And it's almost like your body going, I don't like where this is going. It's feeling a bit unsafe. I don't know. And so you start to suddenly get these urges. I should call my mum. I should call my dad. I should clean the house. I should prep food for the week. All of these random other thoughts start popping up and you're kind of, no, this is distractions just because I'm in an uncomfortable place. I'm starting to really get to know myself. And that was important. And so doing that mixed with spending evenings studying nutrition and other stuff, I had no idea what I wanted to do, but things to make my life easier was taking different nootropics. So I started learning about different ones to have, and suddenly I was buying them in bulk. I was doing N=1 experimentation, where I was basically trying different types of nootropics at a dose required by science, having researched scientific studies, realizing that this ingredient at this dose had a bunch of positive outcomes for all of these sets of people, of healthy volunteers. I want to try and see if it works for me, because it might not. And then if it did, I was like, great, chuck that in the stack. The stack was just different things that I have together. And then it was research. Will that work with the other things I'm having, or will that actually have a contraindicative effect?
Yes.
And if it does play nicely with the others in the group, get in there. and that was effectively it. So over the course of about a year, I had 20 or so ingredients. I think it was 22 actually. 22 ingredients in a Tupperware container. It was basically dirt. I had all these bags of powders around my room. And then once...
that would have looked fairly dodgy.
Looked a bit weird. I'll be honest, definitely looked a bit weird. Aside from the fact I'm leaving early every day in like a suit, probably looked a bit odd because I had micro scales and stuff. And then, and like regular scales. And like once a month or once every 2 months, I'd go ahead and get out the Tupperware container. I'd carefully measure out everything based on the exact amount required to make 100 or so serves.
Yeah.
And then I'd be in a large Tupperware container and I'd mix it best I could, which would shake the shit out of it for a few minutes. And then that was pretty much it.
Right.
And then roughly a tablespoon dose, which was circa 10 grams, was a perfect dose of all these ingredients put together.
Yeah.
And that was amazing because from a nutrition perspective, we're working long, challenging jobs, and the main way that people deal with this amount of stress and challenge of doing long, grinding hours in a corporate world is just tons of coffee. Caffeine is a shit psychoactive drug. It's a blunt instrument, and it's not effective for long-term focus. People think it's the only option, and it's not. Sorry for people who love coffee. I actually like coffee as well, but I will drink like one for the pleasure of the taste, or I'll have it as a social tool where I'll drink a coffee with a friend because it's a nice catch-up thing. I will not have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6
I don't know
anymore.
how people have 5, 6 coffees a day. Like I find that madness.
I used to when I'm back before I learned about all this stuff, just because I thought
you would work 50 hours in a day.
it was the only thing I thought that was available. And so, and same as university, like I still remember, the idea now seems bizarre, but I remember when it was a standard thing to get into the library at UTS at whatever time, 9 or 10 a.m. with a 4-pack of Red Bull. And you would just crack a can and just study and work, and then crack a can and study and work. And then some days, just because I couldn't be bothered moving, I'd bring in like all of my food and my snacks and stuff with me. So the idea is you wouldn't have to leave the library. Perfect training ground for law later on, but it was not exactly ideal, but I didn't know any better.
Yes.
So I can't ridicule people for not knowing better, because I didn't know any better until I started researching.
Yes.
And who the fuck has time to do that?
Yes.
So that's where I started learning about these ingredients, was because I was a place in unhappiness and I was trying to find anything I could to get me out of this place. And so lifestyle habits and nutrition habits, and then what else would I do? Because one really cool bit of advice that my parents gave me, which is I'm very glad I listened to, was find your next job while you have your first job. And they're dead right, because had I left cold turkey, financial pressures would creep up, and then I'm jumping in the next job without realizing, is this the right one? And that's,
and also leaning into the uncomfortability piece for you when you're starting to learn things about yourself. I feel like that's why a lot of people do stay where they are for years and years and years, because they get a bit uncomfortable diving into themselves and looking at what they can do next. And then they're just that's just too much for them. So I'll just stay here. And there's a potential pay rise on the horizon. There's a potential promotion on the horizon. And so that's like, 3 to 5 years down the line. And then they're miserable. They're somewhat depressed. They don't see their friends. Their eating habits are gone out. They've gained weight because they're not being active, because they're depressed. Like, it is this cycle that is so unhealthy. And part of the reason, again, behind our podcast is it breaks my heart to think that people live their lives in a miserable state because they're too uncomfortable to go and see what else is out there.
And that's kind of one thing I didn't want to fall into, is that exact kind of feeling trapped. So I spoke to people before leaving who were senior associates and higher up the food chain, and sure, their salaries may have been a lot higher, but they also now have a mortgage in a nice area. And so great, they live in a nice $2 or $3 or $4 million house. Hooray, but the mortgage on that, enjoy. And they now have 2 little kids. And because they can afford it, they put them in fancy private schools. So the money just kind of disappears all of a sudden.
Yeah.
But the job to make the money is something that makes them unhappy.
Yes.
So I'm like,
It
that.
doesn't
What kind
really
of a partner would I be?
Yeah.
What kind of a father would I be? Not interested. And I figured when I was 27, having had put all this stuff together, one day I had a light bulb moment when I was at home at my A3 diary. I'd called in sick that day. I was just kind of like looking at all the things that I like. I liked health, but I didn't want to be a nutritionist, a naturopath. So in the sense of being a clinical nutritionist, or a naturopath, or a dietitian, or a doctor, or a nurse, or anything in that field. Cool. I like fitness, but I don't want to be a personal trainer, own a gym, or be anywhere involved in that, or be a physio, chiro, or anything like that. Cool. I like this, but I didn't want to do that. I liked this, but so it was kind of like, ugh. And then one day, he just kind of was a bit of a light bulb-ish moment where I was kind of like, fuck, I wish there was a way that I could just kind of like join these different bits of interest. Like I like having a business, and not working in a business, but how do I do that? Where do I start? And then I kind of realized, hang on, I'm making a drink which was dirt plus... It was, so again,
it looked like dirt. It had great effects.
It was my coping mechanism. It was horrible tasting dirt, but if you put it on, so it was, you take a teaspoon of this original Savvy, which is the dirt, put cordial on top, and like word spread across my law firm. It started at my level, just my colleagues and like closest friends, and it kind of spread. And after a while, I had people in different floors come into my floor and like knock on my door going, I heard you have like a bit of a special brain elixir. Can I try it out? And if like, these are like
Can I get some of your dirt?
Yeah, but if these like partners from like other like large departments, you're like, the hell are you doing here? And then it looked pretty unexciting when I have to open up a cabinet, pull out what's effectively a container of dirt, and put dirt in a cup, which smells really bad. And then you go out to the level and you chuck some ice cubes and some cordial in it, and you stir, and you're like, look, I know it doesn't look like much, but the effects are amazing.
Yes.
But what was great is people would email me, come back to my office, text me, into office, chat me, ping me, whatever it was, and just being like, dude, I had such a good afternoon. Like I was so productive. I was really dialed in, and I didn't feel crappy afterwards. I felt like it was like modafinil or adrafinil or something like that, like some type of like Adderall based, like kind of go substance, like an ADHD medication, but without any of the downsides.
Yeah. And it's not the medication.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, well, and then I'd get all excited and I'd be like, oh, it's because, so it's a perfectly balanced formula of this, and this synergizes with this. And so, and like and
that started making you tick, right? Like you got
I loved it.
Yes.
And then, so I was explaining to people why it worked, and their eyes were glazed over. They didn't give a shit. Like they didn't give a shit. They was like, dude.
Bro, give me more, some more.
Yeah.
Give me more of the
Mark,
brain stuff.
I don't care at all. Just, where do I get this? And they expected me to be like, oh, here. And I was like, there's actually not a place you can. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. And they thought I was trying to like be all like coy or whatever. Like, yeah, okay, where do I get something similar? And I was like, no, I'm not trying to like hide the answer from you. This does not exist. I wish it did. I would prefer if it did, so I don't have to go to this level of bullshit every single month. This takes hours to do. Buying all these like stuff around the world, carrying my own stock and creating a potion is annoying to do. So, but there wasn't anything. And for a while I thought it was kind of cool. Like what was effectively the strongest and best nootropic formula was in the corner of my little office. And I thought it was kind of cool for it. And then it dawned on me, that's not cool at all, because I get the benefit and everyone who I get to give the drink to gets the benefit, but no one else does.
Were you selling samples?
No,
just giving it away.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no. So when people like would come along, I'm like, this shit's expensive. Like some of the stuff's like a few $100s a kilo.
Yeah.
And so when I'm just like giving away like drinks all the time, and after a while I'm like, cute. But they would actually, they'd buy me coffee, they'd buy me beers, they'd always, they'd bring me lunch, they'd always like bring gifts after a while. Because after a while I was kind of like, just to be super clear, the stuff in here that's mixed together is really expensive. And then the idea kind of got around.
For someone that's had a lot of free food, you don't look like you look like a pretty healthy guy.
It was all moderation, I guess.
Yes. Okay, so I've got one of the drinks here, which is your calm water with magnesium and L-theanine. Is that right? No sugar, no stress, lemonade with nootropics and vitamins.
That's it.
So tell me, like, obviously we've got all these energy drinks. Tell me, like, is this your bestseller, the calming water?
So it's our newest product. It only came out at the end of last year. But it has actually come out selling phenomenally well because there's nothing else like it in Australia.
That actually tastes like Solo.
Yeah, it's amazing, right? So the coolest thing about that is it's literally a sparkling water with a shot of lemon juice, organic lemon juice, a half shot of organic lime
God.
juice, and then we use monk fruit and stevia as the main things to make it kind of more sweet.
That
We
is
don't like to use
actually
sugar.
amazing.
Tastes delicious, right? And it's entire. And the reason why you haven't, you're going to go, oh my gosh, it does taste like. You link it to Solo, or you link it to like a real lemonade because it actually has actual lemon juice.
I
in
feel
it.
like I'm tasting something that you'd buy at the servo.
Yeah. So it actually tastes like a yummy drink, except it's filled with, so that has a large dose of 300 milligrams magnesium citrate. The reason we use citrate is because it's a highly bioavailable version of magnesium. A lot of people think magnesium is really important as to what it's chelated or bound with. And people will say, oh no, you need to have like the acetate variant, or you need the glycinate, the glycinate. And that's been debunked. But I just find it funny that people are out there listening to that kind of, I shouldn't say I find it funny, because that's what you hear.
You don't
along
know
the
what
way.
you don't know.
Correct.
Yes. But I've been told that there's like 92% of the world's population that have a magnesium deficiency. Like a lot of people are deficient in magnesium.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
And it is responsible for like well over 300 different biochemical like things in our body.
Yes.
From body to brain to everything, magnesium is super, super key.
Yes.
So having a large dose in there was an immediate thing, because a lot of the benefits are around regulating nervous system, helping to feel calmer.
Yeah.
We then have 300 milligrams of something called L-theanine, or equivalent to around 20 or so cups worth of green tea, of this thing called L-theanine. It naturally exists in green tea.
Yes.
It is an amino acid that helps to increase alpha brainwaves in the brain and also helps to regulate a sensation of feeling calm, which is wonderful, through reducing stress and through reducing anxiety. And then in the calm formula as well, we often use California poppy as well as B6 and B12 and C. The B6 is P5P, B12 is the methylated variant, and the vitamin C is from Australian wild harvested kakadu plum. So it's not
amazing.
ascorbic acid, because that's not a true vitamin C. We actually use a ideal vitamin C from Australia, which is actually has the best, most abundant source of vitamin C fruit in the
How
world, which is
good.
kakadu plum.
I actually learnt about your brand at the Good Joint.
Yes.
The amazing team at the Good Joint, and Luke, thank you very much for providing the Gold Coast with osteo, chiro, physio, and. But they sell your products, and I was just walking out of there one day, and I bought the double choc brownie calm nootropic bar, And it's one of those things where I was hungry, and I was heading to another appointment, and I was just like, oh, can I just grab one of those? And I was expecting to take a bite like any other protein bar and those type of snacks, and kind of go, meh, but it's serving its purpose. I took one bite and I was like, holy shit, it's actually delicious. So I took a bite and I grabbed a few more. And I went home and I gave one to my husband, but it was out of its packet because I'd opened it for him. I was like, oh, here, have this. And he's like, oh, I didn't know you made brownies. And I was like, no, dude, it's a calming bar. And he was like, wait, what? That sounds like you've been totally ripped off. Like there's all this shit on the shelf. And I was like, no, let me tell you about it. So to have something,
he's right though. Like 90+% of the stuff on the shelf is complete garbage.
Yeah. So like and he thought I'd been duped yet again. But it is actually delicious. And so congrats to you on having products that not only serve its purpose that they say they will, but they're freaking delicious.
That was kind of the goal ever since day one, was to put it in the ingredients similar to what made me leave law in the first place, at the same amount. So I had all these ingredients at the right amount, according to science, where benefits were being received by people. And I thought, this is amazing. It's a shame that no one else gets to experience this, and I can. So I cold turkey quit law. Had no idea how to do it, but I knew what I wanted to do, which is basically put that dirt that was in a Tupperware container into a drink. Obviously now it exists, hooray.
Yeah.
But at the start I had no idea how to do it. But the goal ever since day one was I didn't want to do what a lot of products out there in the market are doing and put in what's called a subtherapeutic dose, which means less than what's required to receive a benefit. So subtherapeutic amount. I think that's complete bullshit, and a lot of the products in the Australian market do that. A good example is, think of Panadol. So say you have a headache, pain, period pain, whatever it might be, any type of pain. and you know you need a Panadol. And so we all know 2 tablets of Panadol or paracetamol in any way, shape, or form equals pain gone. So that's, each tablet is 500 milligrams, 2 combined together, 1 gram, pain gone. Hooray. But what if I said, hey, you got a really bad headache? Awesome. Let me give you a quarter of 1 tablet. Would you expect that to work? No. It might have the most minor effect, but it probably won't. And so why would you even bother having it? Because chances are it won't do anything. But that's what's on the Australian market all over the place. There's all these studies showing for this ingredient to work, you need this dose, and people put in like a sprinkle. Lion's Mane is an example where it's a bit of a darling at the moment, where I'm seeing it all over the place. But for that to work, you need to have a couple grams. And then more often than not, you look at the back and you're going to go, oh, they've given me like 0.1 grams, 0.2. And you're like, so it's in there for marketing purposes.
Well, it's also the placebo effect, right? You have a sip and you're like, oh, I feel so good.
Well, placebo effects will work, but the question is, will it work all the time, always?
No.
So that's why I'm not a huge fan of products that underdose. So when creating it, I wanted to replicate the same effect as what I had back in that law firm when it was ingredients intricately mixed at the right dose to have an actual benefit, because I loved that. And I also loved the idea when people go, why does it work? I wanted to be able to explain, so they go down the same journey and maybe get the same sense of satisfaction as I did, as learning that this ingredient at this dose, here's 17 studies of people who had a really amazing time, and these are all the benefits. And then you're like, that's so cool. So when I have this at this dose, I can expect that. Awesome. I love that kind of feeling, because then you can start to literally change your lifestyle in terms of nutrition and supplementation to start to experience different things. So do you need something that's going to reduce cortisol and or increase GABA? These are 2 things that help you to feel calmer. Cortisol is your stress hormone. GABA is a neurotransmitter, which is like the handbrake for your brain, which helps to slow racing thoughts and make you feel calmer. So if you're naturally quite an anxious person, you might want nootropics that help you to regulate your nervous system and feel a bit more calm and relaxed and centered. Or if you're someone like myself who gets quite anxious before podcasts or before like a speech or like a big meeting or something, it's so cool to think, great, we now have an option that can help me to feel more regulated before talking on stage or talking into a microphone for a while. So previously stuff that would make you a bit anxious and maybe talk a bit too fast and not deliver your best, instead you have something that's going to help to center you so you can be a lot better. Or when having conversations or doing a job that can be challenging and stressful, maybe you're a school teacher. You're less likely to lose it at the kids. Or you're working in a stressful job, you're less likely to lose it at your coworkers. Because you've had something that helps to regulate your nervous system so there's less stress and less anxiety. And so that's kind of cool. Or maybe you're someone who it could be chronic fatigue or somebody gets a bit more tired. You might want a product that isn't just a caffeine-based source for energy. And there's so many different things out there that provide energy. Caffeine is just popularized. It's cheap and it's everywhere.
So what's your bestseller?
The boost drinks, because this is what we launched with. So the very first drink was in a glass bottle, and it came out in 2017. And I remember when it came out, and it was, we could only afford to make 11 and a bit thousand drinks. And it was about a year or so after I'd quit law. I thought I'd have a drink out in about 6 months, but it took me well over a year. But I managed to sell them in 5 weeks. And I'm like, this is amazing. So the very first drink, it worked well. And because there's nothing else like it on the Australian market, it's always been a bit of an easy thing to try and move. Also, it's a sparkling water with added ingredients that provide an effect for mental performance, focus, and energy. It lasts longer than a pure caffeine substance, whether that's coffee or tea or energy drinks. And because of that, it's going to make you feel better than if you have a coffee. Hooray. It also has 15 other ingredients. Hooray. It also tastes nice. So these things work together to provide a variety of different benefits. So it's a much stronger sell than having another coffee or having an energy drink or having a soda or having a tea or whatever it might be. So that's effective. Also, the biggest market in Australia for non-alcoholic drinks is energy drinks. So being able to tell people this is a brain boost, focus boosting drink that doesn't exist and it's amazing for your brain will get the people at Google and Combank and Westpac and big law firms and accounting firms to want to buy it as much as they can. Hooray, to get ahead from a cognitive perspective. Jobs where your brain is your ability to earn money definitely want products like this.
Yep.
People who just drink energy drinks, whether they're people who have more physical based jobs, they drink a lot of caffeine and energy drinks and they know they're not healthy. So being able to being offered one that's healthier, that has longer lasting effects, that doesn't make you feel jittery, doesn't make you feel shit afterwards and doesn't have a crash. Well, that's an obvious switch.
100%.
And so a lot of people started making that. So that's why this started really kind of popping off, because people who would not drink an energy drink, but would only drink coffee, usually in the corporate world, would start drinking this because it's a sparkling water and it's healthy and it hasn't existed. It's like a brain elixir, super green juice type of healthy vibe.
Amazing.
So they would view it in a different way, like it's a functional sparkling water. But for the people who drink energy drinks, they might view it as a healthier alternative to what they're currently having. And then that was a massive win. So that's what really made it start to fly. Then we made a alternative to coffee. So we made an organic fair trade coffee. We put it in pods and in powder, and then we started adding ingredients to it to make the effect of caffeine much better.
Right.
So that was just through adding things like L-theanine. We added ashwagandha, rhodiola rosea, panax ginseng, lion's mane, vitamins, etc., and just made coffee way better.
I love the brand and I love what you've done with it, and kudos to you for that. I'm heartbroken because we are out of time. I know it's so sad. We'll have to get you back for part 2 because there's just so much to unpack. But leaving with, we have so many listeners that were in your situation as a commercial lawyer.
Yep.
And I really would love for you to give any type of advice or, motivational kind of small pep talk on, like, give them something to encourage them to pivot, to change, to take the shift.
So I had this conversation with someone 3 weeks ago who was working at a warehouse, and he said he doesn't like it. He wants to move on to the next step in life. And so I was recently talking about this, and I suggested to him, given the advice my parents had given me a while ago, which is work on your next job or your next career path or whatever it might be whilst you still have a job. And the reason why is you don't want financial pressure to be the thing that pushes you into making a knee-jerk decision that you might not love. Because at the start, you might have these big, exciting ideas of, I want to try and do all these things. But then if you quit your job and you only have enough savings for, say, 3 months of food and rent, in 3 months' time, you'll take whatever you can. And that's not great, because that's not a good use of time if you haven't actually done things. So it might be worthwhile deciding what you want to do and what's going to make you truly happy next, and start to make steps toward that, because it might take a little bit longer to work out what you want to do than you think. It took me well over a year. I had no idea. I liked all of these different things, but I didn't want to do the career path that I thought linked. And then one day it kind of occurred to me, oh my God, everything that I like could be if this thing that I was making, I made a supplement company out of it, because then I would live on purpose and passion and be able to make people happier and healthier through the stuff that I learned. What a cool gift.
Yes.
And then that was a huge light bulby moment. The practicality of doing it, super fucking difficult.
Yeah.
I knew nothing in food and beverage, manufacturing, supply chain, any of that stuff. To learn everything from the ground up. And that was so challenging, because often people go for the thing they have some friends in, or a family, whatever, in. Going in a path that I had zero idea on made it way harder, but I was so sure this is what I needed to do, what I wanted to do, and that was great. But I think it absolutely is worth it. Like, it's taken an enormous change in my life. It took so much longer. There were so many years where I was thinking, what the fuck am I doing? I spent years making this change. I'm now studying nutrition. I'm now doing this. My debts are getting higher. I'm not getting further ahead. My friends are looking toward marriage and kids, and some of them even buying houses. I'm almost $100,000 in debt. I felt I was going the wrong way. And I was like, the fuck, I'm a fucking loser. There was times when you start to really get a bit dark about what the hell am I doing? However, what kind of was that one little part of light was, but I'm now doing for the first time what I want to do. And I could have those things that other people have, but they may not be truly happy. And I don't know if they are. And if they are, hooray. But if they're not, whatever. But I know that I'm doing what I want to do. And I knew it was going to take some time, effort, and struggle. So I struggled through it because I knew eventually I'd work it out. And I was so sure that I would. And then eventually I managed to. But it was a lot of... Yeah, it was not easy and not remotely a fun or easy experience, but finally getting through it. And now life is a lot nicer, and it was absolutely worth it because now I get to live on purpose, spend my day how I choose to spend it. And there's not a day that goes by that I don't see at least a few emails or a few reviews or messages on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, whatever, where someone writes something really positive about the product. And it might be for themselves, it could be someone they know, whatever it might be, saying, I'm so glad this exists. These products exist because there's nothing else like it and they really work. And I'm like, fuck yeah, they do. Because that was what I wanted to do ever since day one. So back to the taking the shift thing. It's going to suck and it's going to be hard. So take the time required and respect the process, which is it's going to be literally what it sounds, a shift. It's not an easy thing. Changing from one career path to another takes a lot of time, effort, and energy. It takes a toll on yourself. At the time, I made the call at 27 because I didn't have any dependents yet and I was single at the time. So I could afford to make the decision, which is really hard, but in the most selfish way possible because I have no one else to really care for, which was lucky. So weigh all that stuff up before making that huge shift, but it's absolutely fucking worth it. I can tell you from my experience at least. And mine was not a blessed one. It took a lot of hard, there was a lot of banging my head against a wall until eventually I managed to break through.
And you did it.
Hooray.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
I've loved being able to control the conversation without this little pest dressed in black beside me. So I'm very, very grateful, and we'll definitely have to get you back and have part 2 because I think there's so much that the listeners can take away from nootropics and benefits and brain function and cognitive function. So thank you very much, Mark. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Shift Pod. We will be back next week with more amazing guests. Please don't forget to share episodes, like us on your platforms where you get your podcasts, and make sure to subscribe so you get the alerts when we drop every Monday morning.